Yeah, that looks like a few more people got in. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Linda Endersby. I'm an administrative coordinator for MAMA. I want to welcome you all. And as always, we want to thank the Missouri Humanities Council. They provide funding that allows us to do these colleague conversations and offer them. And we have another one coming up in April, although I don't have all the specifics yet, so look for that. And I will turn this over to Connie Yen from Greene County to do her presentation.
Thank you, Linda. Can everyone hear me okay? All good? Okay. Well, as Linda said, my name is Connie Yen. I'm with the Greene County Archives and Records Center in Springfield, Missouri. And today I'm going to talk about how we managed to get the Greene County Archives Foundation up and running despite COVID, which, as we've all experienced COVID the last few years, it's, caused a lot of closures. It's caused a lot of problems for everyone. And we got stalled numerous times, but we hung on and it happened. So this was something that was new to me. I've been on boards before, but I've never been at the start of one, helped to get going. So this was a new experience for me, and I've learned a lot. After we're finished, if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer. And I'm also open to suggestions. Probably there are some of you who are way more experienced in nonprofit foundations than I am. So I welcome questions, comments, and suggestions. So this is our logo, the Greene County Archives Foundation. This first began, I can get my, come on. I can figure out how to forward this. There we go. So discussions about this first began all the way back in 2018. My boss is County Clerk Shane Scholler. He had found a fundraising event that Missouri State University was doing. They had just sent out a flyer asking for money. They had some books they wanted to add to their rare book collection, and they were just asking for money. So we thought about it, we talked about it. What could we possibly do for the archives to help raise money for things we needed here that will never be covered by the county budget? It was late 2019 before we could really finally get started. We rounded up a few board members, had our first meeting finally in January 2020, almost 2 years later. At this meeting, we discussed, among other things, the purpose of the foundation, which as a nonprofit, it's to raise money for the Greene County Archives for things like conservation supplies. Some of those can be quite expensive. Things that need to be done to the buildings, such as humidity control. We don't have any temperature control here. In the winter, it gets very dry. In the summer, it gets very humid back in the stacks. So we need humidity control. And then some things are just aesthetic. Like would like to get rid of the folding tables in the research area and get nicer tables, make the place look better. So those are some of the things we initially discussed, as well as, of course, the need to be incorporated, nonprofit status, and a 501c3. So it was just the basics at that meeting. We scheduled the next meeting for February. We had 2 more board members for a total of 8. We still needed 1 more. We discussed finances, what bank we wanted to use, the need for bylaws and what those would look like. Again, just some basics. We did discuss briefly a possible summer fundraiser launch for the foundation. So we were excited about that. We scheduled our next meeting for March. But guess what? The earth closed in March, didn't it? We were closed down here at the Greene County Archives for 2 months at the beginning of Omicron. We had an election coming up. Since we're part of the county clerk's office, we helped with the election. We had to order all kinds of PPE supplies for that election. And the foundation just got got stalled. We knew there was not much chance we were going to be able to launch that summer. But the board decided to keep meeting, at least virtually. We had a couple of in-person meetings that summer of 2020 in the election center because it's a large room and there was space for social distancing. Our meetings were irregular. I can't say we made a lot of progress getting the foundation going because, you know, everything was closed. It wasn't safe to really, or we couldn't have a big event. It just wasn't safe. We talked about different ideas for the foundation, like getting brief video segments on local TV and radio stations, monthly articles in a couple of local magazines. And then the board wanted talking points. I mean, they all knew about the archives, but they didn't know what we had here. They really, for the most part, didn't even know why our records are that relevant. So I sent them all talking points, which I believe I found on the SAA website. So that's kind of how we spent the majority of 2020, just continuing to keep in contact and keep the discussions going. So we didn't want to just come to a screeching halt. So, you know, I don't know about you guys, but around every corner, I was just hoping that it was about to be over. Of course, it wasn't. We did briefly discuss the possibility of a virtual launch because it just didn't seem like we were ever going to be able to do anything live. We discarded that idea as not really being helpful. By the end of 2020, we were hopeful again to be able to launch in the spring, probably in May. Again, we had to postpone that because of COVID. So finally, in early 2021, we had our first meeting in person that year. We meet in Panera. That's our thing every month. We meet at Panera, we get coffee. So that was the first time in a year we had been back to Panera together. Of course, masked. Omicron was still out there, but we were happy to see each other again in person. And that was February. We settled on a new plan. We were all very excited about this plan because Missouri's anniversary of statehood was coming up, our bicentennial. And there were a lot of activities going on across the state for that. So we decided as the archives that we would have an ice cream social in commemoration of that. That's something the State Historical Society was promoting. So I went online, signed up for that, got it posted on our website. And at that event, that of course the community was invited to, we were going to announce the launch of the foundation. So far, so good. We thought we were really going to be able to do this despite COVID. We began contacting, or the other board members began contacting sponsors. I had an invitation list. We set up a PayPal account for donations since we still didn't have a treasurer. It turns out it's not always that easy to find board members. It's not that people weren't interested, it's just that the people we thought would be a good fit were already busy doing other things. And without a treasurer, we couldn't even open a bank account. We did manage to vote on 3 officers, the president, vice president, and secretary, but still no treasurer. We had a board member who knew a graphic artist who designed the logo for us and a banner. I created a flyer that was posted on Facebook, and I posted that as well as all the event information, and it just went dark. I'm so sorry. Well, that's another issue. The lights are on a timer and they go off when they go off. So I'll just be sitting here in the dark. But anyway, oh my gosh. Hello, can you all see me? Okay, there. Did we lose my PowerPoint? Okay, so everything's just going to go dark. Okay, so publicity. Yes, I posted it on Facebook, listed the event on several local online calendars, and put it in the county newsletter. Even though the majority of the county never reads the newsletter, I thought it was worth a shot anyway. We issued a press release, and we had a program to pass out. We also had a flyer with a QR code, so if people didn't want a paper copy of the program, they could look at it through the QR code. And this was the flyer. This is also the cover of the program. We were so excited. It was finally going to happen. I was able to get all of these printed at the print shop. The county has its own print shop. I printed 200 flyers or programs for $2.89. So that was pretty exciting. Doesn't get much cheaper than that. And though I don't know how, like I said, I'm new at this, starting a foundation. I don't have the contacts to find sponsors and donations. That's why you get board members who do have those contacts. But I did know all the history people to invite. We had about 21, 22 displays spread throughout the courthouse. I created a form email that I sent to every town in the county, as well as every history organization in the county I could think of. Also, the State Archives was here, and the State Historical Society of Missouri was here. So we had a big variety of historical displays. We had since the courthouse is 4 stories, we were able to spread out all the tables and just had 5 or 6 on each floor, so everyone could be social distance. We had hand sanitizer on every table. Someone, I can't remember who, had donated some masks that we could hand out to anyone who wanted or needed a mask. And we started at 1 o'clock that afternoon on the 200th anniversary of Missouri statehood. Shane spoke briefly and introduced County Commissioner and the Mayor, who both gave proclamations regarding Missouri's bicentennial. And these are just a few pictures. I'm the one with the Votes for Women sign, and that's another coworker in the county clerk's office. We had a pretty good turnout. We had, I think, about 200 cups of ice cream. We had contacted as our ice cream sponsor Highland Dairy, who has a long history in the community. And Ozarks Coca-Cola Dr. Pepper Bottling Company provided the water. So there in the background, you can see our banner and the banner that was sent to every county in the state in commemoration of Missouri statehood, the big Greene County banner. So we had quite a few people who did come in costume. And these are some of our board members in costume with the proclamations. There's our banner again. It was a fairly well-attended event. We had 200 cups of ice cream and we passed out most of them. I don't know how many people came back for seconds. So it was successful. Everyone had a good time. We got a little bit of press and the board finally got to launch. But it was a soft launch. It wasn't a fundraiser. We were out there, but we still needed a big event. We also still didn't have a complete board. We were missing a treasurer. We had one, it was the attorney on our board. He decided he should recuse himself from being treasurer since he was the one doing the incorporation and writing the bylaws and some of these other things. So he decided we should have someone else as treasurer. We had another board member resign. He decided he had done all of the fundraising he ever wanted to do in his life. And then Shane, the county clerk, decided that he should be an ex officio member instead of a voting member. So we were still short a couple of board members. On the plus side, we were officially incorporated in July. So moving on to 2022, right after the ice cream social and the foundation launch, we started planning our first big fundraiser. It seemed like COVID, it wasn't going away, but maybe we could work around it, work through it. Since February 2022 was going to be the archive's 35th anniversary of opening to the public, we decided to have a Valentine dinner. The location pick was at the Car Museum. It's not a place that has curb appeal, but when I went inside, I'm not someone who's even interested in cars, but it was amazing. So I was totally on board with the car museum. We, of course, started making a lot of plans. We had numerous silent auction items, table sponsors. We were going to have a photo booth. We got Brooks Blevins as our speaker. We did, of course, there was the board member shuffling. And we did finally get a treasurer. Our final board member took pity on us and decided to be our treasurer so we could finally open up a bank account, and we approved the bylaws. So the board was complete. We had a good board. We had a good plan. And then guess what? Omicron. So here we go again. We had to postpone this event. Of course, there were a lot of logistics there. So we had to notify the sponsors. We had to notify all the silent auction donors, cancel the venue, the caterer, the speaker, even the tables and chairs that we were getting ready to order. Everything had to be canceled. We met virtually in January because, again, it was not a good time to be meeting in person. So we met virtually in January. Everyone agreed we needed to postpone. So looking forward, we are back to meeting in person as of, I think, April. Yeah, this month. No, it must have been March. We had our first in-person meeting again in March. We have a new plan, again, hoping we can see it through. It will likely be in September, and I will keep you all posted. Once we know for sure what it is, we will let everyone know. We still would like to have that Valentine banquet in 2023, if COVID allows. COVID seems to really be in charge now. And so that is the story of us trying to launch the foundation during COVID. We had to cancel, we had to reschedule, we had to rearrange, we had to bring in all the PPE we could to keep everyone safe when we did finally have a public event. We struggled with board members. I guess some of this, for those of you who are more experienced, this is a normal thing when you're starting a new nonprofit. But I guess the bottom line is we just kept in contact and kept it going until we were at least able to launch, and we're still going. So that is all I've got. It was a quick one. I'm open to any questions, comments, or suggestions for the future. How do you get young board members? Well, that's a good question. We have, I think our youngest member is probably in her late 30s. She works for a title company. She knows a lot of people. And I think this is one of our recent discussions with her. She knows a lot of young people, and she is working on not necessarily bringing them into the board because we have a full board right now, but she does think they will be interested in local history, and she wants to start meeting with them and making those connections. And maybe we'll get some volunteers for the board that can be future members. That's a good question. You just have to know the right person who can make those contacts. Examples of bylaws. Oh, wow. That's one thing I did for quite some time when we weren't able to meet. I looked up so many places online. I just Googled bylaws for nonprofit foundations, and what you need to do to set up a foundation, what kind of board members that you need. Some would say you need an attorney on your board. Some say no, not necessarily. We do have one, and it's been helpful. I don't know that it was absolutely necessary, but he has been helpful. He's a good board member. I've got probably still some of those links that if you want to let me know, I can forward you those links, and I can forward you all our bylaws as examples. So yeah, that, like I said, those were some of the things we covered at the first meeting, and I'd researched. I knew we needed to be a 501c3. That takes a while to get set up. We were incorporated first. We had our tax exempt status, so technically we could accept donations. But the 501c3, that paperwork has just recently been sent in, and there's a backlog, so it will take a while. Something else I found out, you have to have a treasurer, and that treasurer has to be in meeting minutes that a treasurer has been appointed, because apparently you have to prove that at the bank in order to set up a bank account. The public's attention. How do you get the public's attention for events? Will the Valentine banquet be by invite only? It will not be by invite only. Again, it will be posted on Facebook. I will post it on the various local websites like the Convention and Visitors Bureau, 417 Magazine. We will hopefully be able to get some TV and radio spots. I know when I posted on KSMU, the public radio station here, they actually announce it on the radio. So we'll be doing all of those things, hopefully get some TV press. There will be a press release sent out again. It will be on our Facebook page, and anyone who wants to will be able to order tickets. We'll get set up with Eventbrite, which is what we plan to do this year for the banquet. But anyone who wants to attend will be able to get tickets on Eventbrite. And if anyone wants to help us with publicity, just please spread the word. Do the board members have a fundraising target? We have not come up with a dollar number. We have things that we do need. One of which I don't like to talk about publicly because I don't want people to know we don't have it. But it would be, I think it was around $4,000 for one of the things we need. So that is a target for that thing specifically. The humidity, temperature control, I have no idea how much that will cost yet. Right now, this year, we're probably going to get a sprinkler system thanks to the Recorder of Deeds, who also fixed our roof a couple of years ago because we kept having water leaks. So things are coming along. Another thing that I had wanted were doors to the stacks. Right now, it's wide open from the research area to the stacks. The county, this is something that I kept requesting, as well as the sprinkler system. The county is going to put doors to the stacks, locked doors. So that's progress. Another thing that I would like, right now our break room is in the stacks. We're actually lucky to have a break room. When they built that addition, apparently they didn't intend to give the employees a break room, so they kind of created one of their own. But it's in the stacks. You don't want a break room in the stacks. So I want that sealed off eventually. And that may be something, if the county doesn't have the money, it may be something that we need to raise money for. From what organization did you get guidelines for getting the 501c3 status? One of the board members knew a CPA, and that is who helped him. Apparently you do need a CPA for that. So that's who helped him get that paperwork going. They had to know all of the officers' names, home addresses, contact information, all of that. So yeah, the incorporation, that was something that was pretty easy. The attorney on our board did that. I didn't actually see that paperwork, but it's apparently quite simple, and that doesn't take long. You submit that paperwork and they just send back an email with the incorporation. And the 501c3, you do need a CPA for that. Linda, okay, I will send all that information to Mama so it can be dispersed to everyone. How are you going about fundraising? Well, we haven't yet because Omicron. But what we're going to do, what we wanted to do with the banquet, and we'll hopefully do again next year, we found a location, got the price for that. Of course, had to find a caterer, a speaker, some kind of entertainment. Tables, chairs, decorations, all of those things. What you need on your board are people who know people with money, bottom line, and aren't afraid to ask them for money. You need those talking points, which is something I sent out to know why archives and history are important. Also, most of the board members have been able to tour the archives, so I've been able to show them what we have here, what people can do with it, like probate records. We have tons of probate records. That's good for historical research, genealogy. We have circuit court cases dating back to 1833. We have deed records. We even have mugshots. So there's a lot of history here that dates back to the founding of the county. And so this is helpful to them to be able to tell people what we have and why it's important. Okay, so Linda has a link there with information about applying for the 501c3. Oh, good. Any more questions? I'm sure I missed something. I start talking fast and I forget some of the things I want to say. Of course, this was all new to me. Starting something like this from the ground up, it just takes time. COVID-19 notwithstanding, it just takes time to get things going. And most of the people on the board are also still working, so they have their day jobs, as do I, and they have to fit this in their schedule. Someone asked about raising money. That's, again, one of the things when we had the ice cream social, several of the board members knew the people in charge at Highland, and you could just call them directly and get ice cream. They brought their old, I don't know, 1930s or 40s Highland truck to park here just for display. Someone knew people at Coke, which was how we got the water. Was it because of the fundraising needs that all this got started? Yes, that is exactly why it got started. The sprinkler system, which when we first started these talks, I didn't know we were going to get a sprinkler system from the recorder. That's in the works. Gosh, what else do we need? The locked doors, the county has agreed to pay for that. We still have got to have temperature humidity control because we have so many spikes throughout the year that it's not good for all the paper we have back here. I would like to have a utility sink in the back. We don't do a lot with artifacts, but occasionally we do. And, you know, a couple of years ago we did, and we really had no place to deal with them, to clean them as they were digging them out of the dirt in the lot next door. So yes, fundraising. We have quite a few conservation needs, and we just get a limited amount of money. My first year here, we were given, aside from salary, insurance, all of those things, the archives had $10,000 to use for the year for anything. And I spent all of it because there were so many things that were needed here. Methylcellulose, for heaven's sake. We had no methylcellulose here. We had nothing to use the methylcellulose with. We needed document cleaning sponges. We needed another deed book desk, which took the bulk of the money. So it's just been year after year of trying to get things that were never here. And then the following year, they cut us to $3,000. And that's all we've been getting. Let's see, in 18, 19, and 20, and 21 for 4 years. That's all we had to function here. And I'm sure you all know how expensive archival quality folders are. We go through a lot of folders in processing the 19th century records. So that may be something eventually the board may have to help us purchase, as well as photo sleeves. We've got 100,000 4x6 images from the assessor's office that have been here for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. They're currently being scanned, digitized by the library center. And when they come back, I'm putting them in photo sleeves and photo boxes, because right now they're just crammed in a metal card file cabinet. And that's going to take a considerable amount of money to get all those sleeved. So that may be something else we'll need help with from the board. Any more questions? You know, aside from the fundraising, another thing that's important to me is getting the word out that we're even here. I'm amazed at the people who don't even know we're here and that we have these resources. So that's another part of the mission of the board, is to raise awareness of the history that's available in Greene County. Does anyone have any suggestions?
I just want to reiterate that raising awareness. I've dealt with a few nonprofits that were support organizations, and sometimes raising awareness of who you are and what you do can be almost as important as raising money. So keep that in mind. Even if
Absolutely.
they can't raise money, they can still do things for you.
Sure, absolutely. Any more questions? This was a quick one. You're welcome, Brooke. Thank you all for attending. I appreciate you being here. If you have any more questions, feel free to email me. You can see in this dark room, we had the, when I first started the research area, the lights were like this. You know, you're sitting there working, customers are sitting there working, and all of a sudden the lights go out. So you have to stand up, go across the room to the monitor, wave your arms to get the lights to come back on. I had that fixed. That needed to stop. Apparently before I started, it was the same way in the stacks. People would be up on a ladder and all of a sudden the lights would go out. So because it was built as a leads building, and those things all make sense for a leads building, to have the lights go out when there's no movement, to have the temperature change on the weekend or at night. Those things make sense for a leads building, but they don't make sense for an archive whatsoever. You're welcome, everyone. I appreciate you being here. If anyone has any more questions, just feel free to email me, cyen@greenecountymo.gov. I would love to hear from you. Thank you, Christina. Good luck we can use, as can we all during these times. Okay, so Linda, I will send you an email with our bylaws and those links I used when I was doing research. We have actually had a few donations that came in when we were working on planning the banquet in February. So we do have a little bit of seed money to start planning the next event. I appreciate all the questions as well.
Hi, sorry, I got distracted by somebody coming in my office.
Well, this was the only quiet place I could find in the building. There's so much going on here right now because of the upcoming election, and the election center is attached to our building. So this was it. And I didn't even realize that the lights would go off in this room just like they do in the elections.